Move your body, everybody, move your body. Come on now, everybody, move your body, move your body, everybody. Come on now, everybody, move your body, everybody, move your body. Come on now.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 1 of Wheezy's FPS War College, a series many moons in the making. This is episode 1, where I'm going to be focusing on map movement. And if you haven't seen the primer video for this series, please go check that out. It'll be the first one in the playlist for this series, and let's get right into it here. Map movement is perhaps the most important fundamental, which is why I'm doing it as lesson 1. And we're going to cover 5 main points here. For successful map movement, you need to work from the edge, the most important point. These are orders of importance. Using cover, anticipating threats, avoiding obvious routes, and being unpredictable in your movement. And we'll watch a few clips here that illustrate each of these points, and I'll try to explain kind of what is expected of each and how they work together to help you improve. So here's a clip from Battlefield. I'm going to try and mix in a bunch of different stuff, but you'll see that in the primers. So working from the edge. Map movement is all about putting yourself in a position to have the advantage in whatever your goal is. Whether that be killing the enemy, moving to an objective, whatever you're trying to do. And working from the edge will allow you to control where your threats are going to be coming from. And that's kind of the key, is controlling threats in most of this, where by working from the edge of the map, essentially what you do is you put your back against essentially kind of what can be considered a wall. You're trying to make it so that you can't easily be flanked or snuck up upon. Snuck 'em up upon, as we would say. And working from the edge is the easiest way to do that. So here you can see me exploring the edges of the boundary. So kind of let's talk about map movement in general here. The idea with with successful map movement is to be able to move around while doing what people who are less experienced at FPS games try to do, and that's camping. Where camping is what an inexperienced player will do to try and get kills when they don't know kind of what they're doing. And the idea is that their threats will come around a corner to a location that they have pre-selected, which allows them an advantage, which they wouldn't otherwise get. Using smart map movement will allow you to gain that same advantage over your enemies while not sitting in a corner like a douchebag. So, working from the edge is the fundamental aspect of map movement that allows you to control where your enemies will be coming from. This one I'm covering very briefly, using cover. I'm going to create an entire episode on using cover. It is a very fundamental and very important thing to do in FPS games, and it's kind of self-explanatory, but I will be breaking it down for lots of different things in different episodes. So we're going to keep this one short. This clip shows how moving around while using cover can help you get an advantage. Anticipating threat locations is extremely important in map movement. Here you can see me checking down this endway. I'm using this is Black Ops, using Nova gas and special grenades to kind of figure out where the enemies are and be able to get myself in a way in a position where I have the advantage over them. And I don't wander into the onlooking eyes of an enemy who's ready to shoot me. So they're watching that long line of sight, and if I just walk down that, they have the advantage. So if I anticipate where the threats are going to be, then I am able to avoid the dangerous areas. And you'll see kind of how these 5 main points I'm illustrating for map movement start to really work together. And anticipating threat locations is more than just seeing someone and flanking around them. It's being aware, and it goes a little bit to getting experience in a game, but in general, it's pretty quick to learn where are you walking when you get shot the most, right? So perhaps there's a part of a map where every time you go there you get shot, and maybe you do or don't know where the enemy shoots you from at that location. By anticipating threat locations, where they're going to be, and where you are when you're most often under fire, you can avoid those high threat areas, or at least be prepared to shoot at the enemy when you come in around a corner to a place where you'd anticipate someone to be. So it's a way of keeping yourself from being surprised by an enemy, and giving you at least a fighting chance if, say, you have to move to an objective and you know an enemy's going to be there, but you can't avoid going that way. And as you can see here, fills in nicely to avoiding obvious routes. And this is also, again, these are fundamental things, so very straightforward, very basic, must understand things to have success, and when applied generally, allow you to have success in games you're not otherwise familiar with. So avoiding obvious routes does take a little bit of game experience to learn, but in your first match, in the first game of an FPS you've ever played, it may only take you 1 or 2 deaths to figure out, hey, everybody on my team is going down this way, and they're not making any progress. When I go this way, I get killed. That's an obvious route. That's where everyone's looking to be. So you try to stay again, working from the edges, and when not working from the edges, avoiding obvious routes. So here you'll see me kind of combining a little bit, where this is one of my very first times playing Battlefield Vietnam. So this is kind of me applying it to a map that I haven't played on before. So what I'm doing is I'm working from the edge, you can see here, where I've found the edge of the map, and I'm working forward, which gives me a chance to engage these enemies on my terms, where they're in front of me, where I'm expecting them, and not flanking. But here, in a moment, you'll see me deviate where moving along this right-hand side is now the obvious route. You'll see all my teammates bunched up here. That's where an enemy just was. There's a lot of action in this area. So that is an obvious route that I do not want to continue on, even though that's the edge of the map. So you'll see where keeping these guidelines in mind, but not strictly adhering to them, is the way to kind of use these strategies. So if you say, okay, you said stick to the edge of the map, I will just always stick to the edge of the map. That's not always valid. That's a good fundamental to start from. But here you'll see, okay, well, I need to try and get to the edge of the map, but avoid obvious routes. So here I'm moving into the middle of this part of the map, but avoiding the obvious routes where the enemies are expecting you to be. And as you can see here, utilizing a lot of cover, trying to anticipate that the enemies are going to be down towards this C point in this conquest game, and seeing where my teammates are going, I'm going to flank around. I'm going to avoid the obvious route, take the long way. There I can see my enemies, or my friendlies getting in some firefights. So I'm going to try flanking route, see if I can go around, avoid the obvious route, try and catch them by surprise. There you'll see my teammates already captured the point. And what you need to keep in mind from this is, as a fundamental, you'll need to, with experience, figure out how to apply these to other gameplays. So say if I wanted to be involved in that Charlie capture, then I wanted to be there and help with the flag cap, then you kind of have to ignore some of the fundamentals, risk making a hasty move, and risk a death to try and get to that cap. Playing safer, trying to do the fundamentals. Keep in mind I was specifically playing to catch clips for this while I was doing this one. But here, the enemy's taking this point back, so I put myself in a place where I'm safe, and I've gotten here to support the second capture. And that's using smart map movement. That's not using gun skill. You're not, doing jumping no scopes or headshotting people, or, running your 10 sensitivity. Simply by taking the smartest route across the map, I was able to get behind the enemy at this objective point, capture it safely, and now I can move on and go about other business. Again, keep in mind, if I had wanted to be involved in the original capture of C, there's another good point there. As I turn that corner, watching the edge of the map by someone who's camping because they weren't aware of good map movement or whatever their strategy was there. By checking that corner, i.e. sticking to the edge of the map, I got to see that guy and actually take a shot at him instead of getting shot in the back. So, but again, smart map movement is the most fundamental component in getting better in FPS, because whether you can shoot someone, whether your aim is bad or not, if you move intelligently across the map, and the other team doesn't expect you, as this fifth point illustrates, then you can have success even without a lot of gun skill. Some might call it without having skill, period, but moving intelligently is its own skill. Here I'm illustrating the importance of being unexpected, and that's kind of what all this is all about. You don't want to be where the enemy expects you to be, because that gives them the advantage. They can essentially camp where you're going to be coming from, but when you're unexpected, you catch them looking the other direction. There was a good example of where hopping on a rooftop, going across the staircase where they don't originally, where people would normally anticipate someone coming from, they're not looking that way for threats, so you get the advantage and easy kills, and after that clip, an objective capture. So here, I'm illustrating kind of a combo of everything where I was kind of unaware of that guy behind me. He took a shot at me, so I immediately took cover, and he may expect me to rush the staircase. Not a lot of people know you can go up this front ramp, so I'm able to surprise him, and by using my silencer, again, the other guy's unaware that I'm here. So that includes a little bit of gun strategy into it, but being unexpected is kind of what all the fundamentals are about. Don't go where the enemy expects you, because that will get you killed more often than not. And if you're in a situation where the enemy expects you, then you will have to win on gun skill, and you're trying to avoid fair fights like that. This final clip is going to show how all of these different concepts can work together, keeping you mobile, keeping you on the objective, and allowing you to do well. So here you see anticipating a threat location, we're watching my back with a claymore, seeing the enemy that's watching B, knowing that the enemy is still going to be spawning back here because this is a demolition game. Again, knowledge of the exact games and game modes is less important than trying to keep the fundamentals in mind. Flanging back around to avoid the obvious route of where they were expecting me to come as I was kind of doing my spawn rush. Anticipate them at the bomb, anticipate them outside based on the UAV, and here is kind of a being unexpected, getting up to a location where I haven't been, and catching them not anticipating a threat location. They should anticipate that someone is up there in the building, or at least check for it and use more cover. That guy ran out in the open, got killed. There, using cover around the corner. Here, using cover again. The guy just doesn't have a chance. And back to the edge of the map. You don't want to give the other team a fair chance at killing you. And for a lot of new players, that involves camping. Sitting in a corner waiting for someone to walk by so that they have the advantage in the fight. By moving around the map correctly, you can avoid being campy and what personally I consider a boring style of gameplay, just not as entertaining, but still allow yourself to get those unfair matchups and make gunfights that are ones that you have the advantage in, even while moving in a way that the enemy doesn't expect. So here's we close up the clip. I'm anticipating threat locations and defending the objective at the end. So you can mix them into not just playing in a Slayer mode, but also to defend objectives, attack objectives. Hopefully that was somewhat informative, somewhat useful. I tried not to ramble on too much, but as I always do, I always appreciate feedback. That's episode 1, map movement of Wheezy's FPS War College. Let's go back over a recap of the main points here. Working from the edge, using cover, anticipating threat locations, avoiding obvious routes, and being unexpected. If you can incorporate those 5 fundamentals of map movement in any FPS game you play, regardless of your level of skill with the controller or with the weapons in the game, with whatever perks, setups, maps, game modes you're using, you can find at least a decent level of success just by catching the enemy off guard and moving in ways that give you the advantage. So that's the end of episode 1. Expect more, hopefully with a faster turnaround than this first one, but yeah, that's Wheezy's FPS War College episode 1 map movement. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you later.